Hi, everybody. They say 3 times a charm. What I'm about to tell you and talk to you about, I've already recorded twice. I've lost two 30-minute chats, so I'm a little frustrated. Plus, my allergies are going crazy, so I'm sitting far back from the camera and also trying to look a little bit hazy because my face is so puffy that I think it's gonna explode. The great thing about going away for 8 weeks is that we were on a big adventure. The bad thing is I came back and I'm actually allergic to my dogs. And so I'm getting readjusted and having to take medicine and ugh. So if you look at me and go, oh, what's wrong with him? I haven't been crying, nothing's wrong. It's just allergies. Also, I think there's something here in the air here in Barcelona. Things are starting to flower. And I think there's a bit of pollen in the air that it's just aggressively going after my eyes. In any case, I wanted to come back and do a follow-up on the webinar that we had the other day because, there's always extra information that I always want to give on almost every topic and every time. And that webinar last week, which of course is designed just to give you some pointers on choosing your group that you're going to use in the workshop, there's so much more that I wanted to tell you. So this is a follow-up. If you have not yet watched the webinar, it is in our Facebook group, the topics webpage, not the media training webpage. That link is there. There's also a link to the documents that we referenced in the workshop. There is my little presentation. There is a checklist and also the wonderful charts that Erica created with the different policies of the various river cruise lines. So if you haven't accessed that yet, I really urge you to head over. The Google Doc link is also in our Facebook topics page. And I believe I also sent it out as an email. I have so many things happening at the moment. It's hard to keep track, which is a great problem to have, but sometimes it also leaves me feeling a little bit like, oh my gosh, I wanted to do one more thing. So I'm coming back to you because I want to talk to you all specifically about those of you who want to do groups that concentrate on river cruises. I am known as the River Cruise King, so I think a little bit of extra input might be helpful. For anyone who has not done a river cruise before or is a little sketchy on the rivers over here in Europe, which are used on the river cruises, I wanted to give you some insight on great first river cruise offers. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about the rivers themselves. So within the Central European rivers, you have the main two, which are the Rhine and the Danube. The Rhine stretches from Amsterdam down to Basel. It has the connecting rivers of the Moselle coming in from France and Luxembourg, and the Main River, which right below Rudesheim connects the Rhine to the Danube via the Main River and the Main-Danube Canal. This gives you a lot of opportunities. So, for example, the Rhine, which I consider the Rhine and Danube the two starter rivers, a river cruise from Amsterdam to Basel, or vice versa, that is a very easy river cruise to sell. You're starting in Amsterdam, you're visiting major cities like Cologne and Strasbourg, you're hitting small wine villages like Rudesheim, you have a stop in Speyer, there's stops along in the Black Forest, as well as the Middle Rhine, where all those wonderful romantic castles are. This is a great sell. You can sell it in the spring, summer, fall, and Christmas markets, which I'm going to come to as a special subject all on its own. It's primarily Germany and France, finishing up in Switzerland. And you can spin this and concentrate on castles, wine, German culture and food, as well as French food for the stops in the Alsace-Lorraine. It's a fantastic river. The Danube, which is the monster river of Europe, if you take the Danube and separate it into the two main itineraries, if you start with the lower part of the Danube, which is, if Budapest is the hub of the spoke of the river, extending down to Bucharest, Romania, this is Croatia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Romania, and it's more of a wild, undeveloped Europe. The other part of the Danube, which is the one that most people sail, at least the majority of people, if they say they've been on a Danube cruise, they will have done the stretch between Budapest and Germany, either Nuremberg, Vilshofen, Regensburg, etc., Passau. This covers Hungary, Bratislava for Slovakia, Austria, you hit Vienna, you hit the wine villages in the Wachau Valley, Krems, Dürnstein, the wonderful Melk Abbey. There's usually a stop in Linz, which is for Salzburg. Of course, everyone knows the Sound of Music. And continuing into Germany with stops in Regensburg, Passau, some of the smaller villages in that region, finishing up in either Vilshofen or Nuremberg or Passau. I like to talk consider that part of the Danube, the Sound of Music, Habsburg Empire part of the Danube. Maybe some of you have seen the latest show on Netflix, Empress, about Empress Elizabeth of Austria, as we know her in the Germanic region, Sissi. This is the very cultured, beautiful architecture, wonderful food part of the Danube, which, attracts, a lot of romanticism. And these two, the Danube and the Rhine, those are really core rivers that are the backbone of river cruising in Europe. Now, the Danube and the Rhine are connected by the Main River and the Main-Danube Canal, and the Main is a meandering, smaller river which hits wonderful little cities and towns like Würzburg, Bamberg, Miltenberg, Wertheim, Frankfurt is on the Main. Not every cruise stops at Frankfurt, but it is a highlight city. I think Uniworld and Amadeus are two of the lines that highlight Frankfurt, and then it connects to the Rhine River at Mainz, and Rudesheim is also right in there. It is possible to create wonderful wine cruises through these regions, especially if you connect with the Moselle River from Luxembourg down into Germany. You'll hit places like Bernkastel-Kues. You'll see Cochem. That's one of the famous images that's often used of the castle up on the top of the mountain. That's Cochem. Now, I lived in that region for almost a decade, and it is beautiful at any time of the year. But I would, in the past, when I first started, I would do, for example, a summer Danube cruise and a winter Christmas market cruise on the Rhine. And then the following years, I would switch them. I would do a Christmas markets of the Danube and either summer, fall, or spring on the Rhine. And that allowed me to concentrate and highlight the various seasons of the rivers. Because something to keep in mind is that all of these rivers change their character and the things that are happening around them based on the seasons. And the cruise lines are sailing in all of the seasons. Now, the French rivers, which you have the main three, which is the Seine from Paris, heading up through Normandy, which, you're hitting the American Cemetery, the Normandy beaches, the Canadian and U.S. beaches from D-Day. You're hitting wonderful cities like Rouen and cute little towns like Honfleur, the ability to go to Mont Saint-Michel and all of that beautiful area up in that northern part of France. Then you have Bordeaux, which is 2 hours south and west of Paris, easily reachable by the TGV train in 2 hours. Bordeaux is a very heavily centered wine cruise, concentrating on the left and right banks of the Garonne and Dordogne rivers, and heavily featured on early French history. That time when, the princes and the knights of England and France were fighting and intermarrying. And so early French and British history featured in Bordeaux. Then, of course, you have Provence, the sailings from Lyon down to Arles, going to beautiful places like Avignon and Tournon, and just all the beautiful vineyards and rolling hills of Provence. France, to me, is a bit of an advanced itinerary, unless you have a specialized group, which, of course, French wines and French food and French history is a great sell, and that is a great group to do. But if you're a first-time river cruiser and you're trying to get people kind of interested and capture attention, it's generally easier to capture people's imaginations with the Rhine and the Danube. But of course, the French rivers are beautiful. In Portugal, you have the Douro River, which is heavily through the Douro Valley, lots of round trip cruises out of Porto. There are a few that will do 7-night cruises from Porto up through to what I call the stop of the dumpster by the river in Spain, because the ships stop at this northern port in order to disembark and send people to Madrid. And literally, it is a parking lot with a dumpster. It's not even a town where they finish and start if they're doing the 7-night full Porto and Madrid with the Douro in the middle, instead of Lisbon, Porto, and the round trip Douro. But the Douro is also very specialized. It is a hot river. One thing to keep in mind is that everything done in the Douro, regardless of who is running the cruises, 90% of them are run by a company called Douro Azul, and they are then contracted by, say, AMA Waterways or Scenic or whoever, and the product on board is actually delivered by Douro Azul. So there's not so much differentiation in some of the programs there. That's also, I consider, a more advanced river cruise offering. Maybe not the best first-time river cruise if you're not experienced with river cruising or Europe. But of course, Portugal is a wonderful place to visit, and the Douro is quite a popular draw. But it has been more of an interest of people who have cruised on all of the other rivers. I also don't want to discount places like Vietnam. My favorite river cruise itinerary, one of them really is the Mekong. And the itinerary from the Mekong covers Vietnam and Cambodia. They do pre and post trips. If you're heading north up the river, starting in Saigon, the programs will begin a few days in Saigon and then head up to, I believe it's Mai Thong. I forget the name of it. Oh, and by the way, Chúc Mừng Năm Mới. It is Vietnamese New Year. So happy Vietnamese New Year, everyone. I love to do my Vietnamese cruises during a time that includes the Vietnamese Tet New Year, because everything is decorated beautiful with blossoms everywhere. People are in good moods. And the cities empty out a little bit because people all go home to visit their families. So it's not as crowded and crazy as other parts of the year. Plus, I really like the weather. It's a bit cooler in the north, but still very pleasant, and not so oppressively hot in the south and on the rivers. But that itinerary, you'll spend some time in Phnom Penh. Most cruises overnight 2 nights in Phnom Penh to give a chance to explore that wonderful area in the city and go to the killing fields, which is very sad and sobering but important. And then the cruises will continue up and go to one of my favorite places, Siem Reap, where you get to go to the Angkor temples. And the land programs then continue from Siem Reap up to Hanoi for the city and for Halong Bay. That is a wonderful, wonderful trip. So if you are thinking of something exotic, I would recommend it. And I definitely recommend considering trying to incorporate Tet somewhere into the dates of the group that you're going to do. I will tell you that 2026 dates are already very full. So if you're thinking of Vietnam, Cambodia, I would consider 2027. The ships in both Portugal and Vietnam tend to be a bit smaller, between 100 and 120 passengers, versus on the European rivers where you have anything from 140 to 160, or with Viking almost 200 passengers. I don't like Viking river cruises for the lone kind of facet that there's just too many people on them. But that's just my personal thing. When it comes to a Viking product, I prefer Viking Ocean. That's just me. However, that's an overview of the rivers. One of the things I also wanted to talk to you about is, if you're kind of thinking of something to do, using special highlight activities like Christmas market cruises or the tulip time itinerary, which I left out until now. These are great hooks. Everybody is interested in visiting a Christmas market. And there is really, now I am called the River Cruise King, but really I am the Christmas market emperor. I have been to over 2,000 Christmas markets in my 25 years of living in Europe. And that is, yes, it is crazy, but you also haven't seen my house at Christmas. There's a video. The thing about Christmas market cruises, they have a natural interest level. They have the appeal that not everyone has done them, and even people who have cruised before, maybe on the Rhine or the Danube, they've done a summer or a spring cruise. It's totally different in the cold weather and the ability to enjoy the Christmas markets. Now, one of the things that's important to know about selling a Christmas market cruise is that it's still the same itinerary and agenda with tours. So for example, someone who goes, oh, I don't want to just go to Christmas markets, and that's not my thing. All the cruise lines, they still do the regular historical, culinary, and cultural tours that you would have on a river cruise at any other time of the year. They just expand timings and locations to include the Christmas markets. And that also doesn't mean that you're hitting a Christmas market every single day. Some of the stops, when you're in smaller villages, they might not have their Christmas market open during the stop. Sometimes they're only in the evenings. There are some smaller villages that don't do their Christmas market the whole season. They only do them for specific weekends. So it's kind of a mix. Oh, we have a visitor. Hello, did you come to say hello to everyone? All right, I'll show you. So this is the culprit, one of the culprits to my allergies. And you just sacrificed some of your time for me to do a Christmas market cruise, didn't you? Yes. So, okay, I'm glad you're back from your walk. Go lay down. But Christmas markets are a great, great sell. And it's a lot of fun. One of the things to keep in mind if you're going to do a Christmas market cruise is timing. The Christmas markets are centered around the Advent season, those 4 weeks leading up to Christmas. And most Christmas markets will begin on the Wednesday before the first Sunday of Advent, which means generally most of the markets are starting around Thanksgiving. Now be very careful, because some of the cruise lines will try and trick you into giving you really super rates in mid-November and trying to tell you that, oh, yes, well, there'll be some markets open. Don't fall for it. Especially in France. There's a line or two out there that are trying to convince people that Christmas markets in France is a thing. It's not a thing. Anyway, I digress. Be careful about your dates, partly because of flying. One thing that could kill a Christmas market group is if people have to hit the airport on that Tuesday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving, when everyone's trying to get home. So try, if you want to do a Christmas market cruise, I do recommend those first 2 weeks of Advent, because when you get too close to Christmas, that's another little flag for people thinking, oh, I don't want to be away from home too close to Christmas. So try to make it so that your guests can fly on the Friday after Thanksgiving, or even the Monday after Thanksgiving. Another thing to keep in mind, no matter what river you're doing or when, is that the majority of river cruises are 7 nights on the ship, but they also have the bookend pre and post land tours. Many of your cruise lines, their itineraries are set up so that their embarkation and disembarkation cities are not part of their ship tours. So if someone doesn't come in early or stay longer, they're going to miss that city. I'll use for an example my recent Christmas market cruise with Amadeus. We sailed from Nuremberg to Strasbourg, France, and I made it abundantly clear to my guests that embarkation day in Nuremberg would be get on the ship and sail away that night, and disembarkation in Strasbourg is arrive that morning, and those cities were not included in any tours done by the river cruise line. So they would have to make sure that they participated either in my pre and post land tour or creating their own private pre and post stay in order to see. And Strasbourg is a highlight of any Christmas market cruise. So 95% of my guests made sure that they included Strasbourg as part of their post-cruise program, and the 5% that didn't, well, they missed out, and it was their own fault. These are things to keep in mind when putting together and choosing dates. And that goes for any time of year. You always want to think, when you're scheduling a river cruise, you want to look at what kind of things are happening on the calendar so that you can avoid the need of people having to fly on important, busy travel days that conflict with other, holidays in the places where people live. So Christmas markets, yay, I love them. I sell out ships for Christmas markets. Another itinerary where I have sold out ships before is the Tulip Time itinerary, round trip out of Amsterdam. One of my favorite places. I love cruising in the Netherlands and Belgium. I love the itineraries, and I especially love doing it in the spring, in April, when the fields are full of flowers and you can take people to Keukenhof, which is the very famous park that does billions of flower bulbs every spring and has a magnificent display. It's absolutely magical, and it's a great itinerary. Plus, you have the added benefit of people being able to fly in and out of only one city, Amsterdam. It's quite easy to plan pre and post stays there. So those are good natural hooks and things that you can entice people's excitement and their fantasies of travel if you're looking to do a first-time river cruise. And speaking of that, I want to circle back to what I had said in the webinar about you. My river cruises, there is a whole debate within the travel community of, you shouldn't build your groups around yourself. Well, why not? We live in a time when we are told increasingly that our value as a travel advisor is us. It is our knowledge, our enthusiasm, our passion. And what separates us from, say, the dreaded evil Costco travel or some of those out there that are lowballing and doing really weird things to entice clients away from us, or even direct booking cruises. You know, when we're told we are the difference, well, I believe that. And when I started doing my river cruises, my whole hook was, why do this on your own when you can do it with me? And I live here in Europe and I have really good insight that will make your river cruise more exciting. Now, I know I am the exception of living in Europe, but we also now live in a time where you can really educate yourself very easily and make yourself look like an expert on a place without actually having been there. We have Google Street View, which did not exist when I started doing my groups. You have the ability, there are so many things at YouTube where you can educate yourself and find out about a place you're going to visit with a couple of videos. And really, fake it till you make it has never been so easy, because you can go in and find out, we're going to teach you how to do this actually in the workshop. But you can go to places like ChatGPT and ask them to put you together a detailed 2-day itinerary with the most popular restaurants at the moment in a region or whatever. You have so many things at your disposal that can help you make things great. And the thing about your clients and the thing about going with you, if you think how busy everyone is, my hook with my clients is you don't have to do anything. Pack and show up. Everything else is done for you. That is what we're offering in our groups. And when we're making ourselves an anchor of a group, that is the selling point. So that comes back to you choosing a group or a destination and a particular trip that you're excited about, and that you can kind of infect other people with your enthusiasm to get people to go. It's kind of like that snowball on the hill of momentum, because when a couple of people are booked and they tell some friends and they tell some friends, what was that commercial? Was that Clairol or Wellsome? I don't know. I just remember the multiplied television commercial, but that's what I envision when I'm doing a group and trying to multiply the reach that I have with getting people to come. But that excitement has to come somehow from me. And I spend a lot of time going through, what's happening in a city and what's cool and what's exciting and what's new, and sharing that with my groups to get that excitement built. So those are things to consider as you're thinking about what kind of a group that you would like to present to your clients that we will work on inside of the workshop. So that's my 2 cents for today, my follow-up on the workshop. And oh yeah, look, another half an hour has gone by. So this 28-minute video actually took 90 minutes to make and 3 days. With those worksheets that we had set in there, I find a lot of comfort in writing things down, as you can see by all the papers on my desk. I love notes, I love lists. But as you're thinking about what to do, make notes. There was a question in the webinar that came up from one of our students, Nicole, and she had made some charts and things. And one thing I want you all not to do is not to overcomplicate your processes either. There is a lot to be said about research and checking things out, but there's also a lot to be said about allowing the fear of not being perfect to keep you from moving forward. I was in a class several years ago, and there was a statement in there that kind of described me, which also helped me move forward. And it was imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. And I had gotten mired down in making sure that I didn't make mistakes, or I didn't miss something, or I maximized every single thing. Well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter how much you do, you're always going to miss a little something. There's always going to be that one little thing. So stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to impress, the internet, the movies, the newspapers, the magazines. They all want to convince us that everyone out there is at the top of their game and perfect, and everyone is doing better than you. It's not true. So give yourselves a break, make your notes, but then move forward, make decisions, and, do something. Make a decision, make it happen. The worst thing is that you try it and something doesn't work, and then you tweak it and you do it a little bit different the next time. But there is no such thing as always being perfect all the time. It's not a reality. And I also kind of compare it to what I tell my guests when they're putting together their agendas on visiting a place. I don't care how much planning you do, what kind of itineraries and schedules and whatever you make, you will never see everything. It's just not possible. Even if you had, I've lived in Europe 25 years and I've barely scratched the surface of what there is to see and do and discover here. So the important thing is that you have a good time in the places that you're going, and you feel great and you create good memories. I always tell people, make some lists, do as much as you can on the list, but fill your day, don't fill your list. And so that's kind of where I would like you to be with your groups. So now you've had some time to think, you've had the webinar, you've had my little 2 cents here. So I want you all now to act. If you have not chosen your group yet, I'm going to be sending you a form in the next couple of days. I want you to choose your groups. And something I wanted to bring your attention to in my little presentation is the vital page. It's right at the end of my little presentation, and it says vital and questions at the top. And it goes over a few of the points where you should think about, but don't over obsess. So I'm going to sign off for now. And I just want you all to also remember this should be fun. It should be rewarding. Don't make it too much of a pressure thing on yourselves. So have a great day, and we're going to see you at our next webinar, when we will go over all of the tools that we'll be using in the webinar so that we can make sure that everybody is prepared when we get to the webinar. So have a great one. Bye.